A lot is going on in the world as the world keeps changing and the United States keeps flailing around. That's the right word to find a solution that will extricate its increasingly dire position in West Asia. We have more and more breaking news. Earlier today, we recorded a very big session with our founding members, Larry Johnson and Pepe Escobar, and we told you about a series of really bad moves. I mean, that is a kind way of saying that Trump made to find a way out, but obviously was not able to do that. So I'm here with my very dear friend and a world renowned, world respected contributor whom we are very proud and very privileged to have, Pravin Sawhney, who will be giving us his interpretation of the events that were discussed earlier today. There is one additional small piece of news that I will add to that once I reciting what those events are. Uh, this is transition protocol. If you like what we do, I would request you to hit the like and subscribe button, hit the notification button, go to Substack, same name, Transition Protocol for $5 a month. We will deliver this high quality news to you inside your mailbox twice a week. So, welcome, Praveen. Let me give you a recital of what has come to me through my sources, through my contacts, which we discussed earlier today. But of course, we are going to be privileged to hear your perspective. And it is a very important one because it's deeply respected, not only by our audience, but also by many decision makers whom I know personally. So, this is what has happened. Back in May, Tulsi Gabbard, who was the head of DNI, National Security of the United States, uh, did what she thought was a very clever move. She got in touch with the president of Kurdish region in Iraq, uh, Noshiravan, President Barzani, and established a channel and said, well, oh, yeah, this is going to be a great backdoor channel to have communications with IRGC because it was quite well known that Noshiravan and IRGC head, General Vahidi, were contacts. I mean, not necessarily friends, they were just contacts. And she just basically established a channel. And prior to making any significant moves in that direction, Trump, who was cultivating a relationship with the Pakistani Field Marshal Asim Munir, made a request after doing everything to gain his favor, saying, "Would you please put me in touch with IRGC head?" I mean, even somebody who is a lay observer of world events sounds amateurish to me. Uh, I happen to know that Field Marshal Asim Munir is a very, very bright guy, extremely seasoned. Regardless of whether you approve or disapprove of what he does, you cannot say he's not a bright person. Very competent. So, from my reporting, from my understanding, he told Trump in polite words, you are out of your head to even ask me to do something like this. I'm not going to do it because if I did anything even remotely close to what you want me to do, I will never ever be invited back in Iran again. So Trump was disappointed, and from that point onwards, he soured on Asim Munir, and we saw all that being reported also that he is moving away from Asim Munir. He wants to go to Qatar, wants to go to Oman, blah blah blah. Except that when he went there and they approached Tehran, Tehran said, "No, no, 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 no. We have our contacts, and you know who they are. Go back, talk to Asim Munir." So Trump was frustrated. Now, at that point, Trump had a brilliant idea, very brilliant. He went back to his Venezuela success story and said, "Why don't we revive that? We are not making any headway." Instructed whoever to reestablish the contact, which had already been established, was dormant, with the president of the Kurdish region in Erbil, and said, "Would you please make a contact with General Vahidi? We really want to make a deal, and here are billions and billions of dollars that you can offer them, and they are going to be our friends. We know they don't represent the mullahs, blah blah blah, all this nonsense. I have no clue why Noshiravan felt that he could do something as stupid and crazy as this, but we have reported this, and now it is being confirmed 2 days later in by Axios. Axios is a good source because they are very close to the Trump administration. That oh yeah yeah we made a contact through Noshiravan. But it was a diplomatic channel. It was a backdoor channel. Well, no such thing. It was an attempt to bribe General Vahidi. It was an attempt to create a fracture in leadership. It was an attempt to buy the leadership, to duplicate their so-called strength of bribing people, dividing people that they had demonstrated earlier in Venezuela. Well, from our reporting, Vahidi got the phone call, listened patiently, and then told Nashravan that don't ever make this kind of call to me again. And don't want to hear it. You are asking me to commit treason, and I will not stand for this. And then he promptly went and spoke about this to the Supreme Leader, Mujtaba Khamenei. Of course, it was rejected out of hand. Mujtaba Khamenei, through another contact, got in touch with Asim Munir upon advice from Mustafa and General Vahidi and Iranian leadership told Pakistan what had happened, and Pakistan then shared what had happened previously, so they all came back on the same page. So here is an attempt by Trump, which demonstrates to us that he is flailing. But analysis belongs in your sphere. I'm just reporting the facts to you as I know them.
Thank you,
Go ahead,
Zulfiqar.
Parveen.
Thanks a lot, Zulfiqar, for having me on your channel. Now,
You are very welcome.
what all you said, it simply explains that Trump and America neither understand Iran nor Pakistan. Now, Iran is not Venezuela. Iran is fighting an existential threat. For Iran, it's an entirely different ballgame. And to even contact General Vahidi and try to bribe him by billions of dollars or whatever amount is actually a desperate and an insane act. This is the way I would put it. In fact, if you see, perhaps after that, what has happened is that the Iranian leadership, they've repeatedly been talking about deterrence. And when they are talking about deterrence, they are talking about both the elements working together, which is the military component as well as the political component or diplomatic component. So it's working together now. And we also know that the Iranians, they have recently done the military reshuffle. And in the reshuffle, we have now this the Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council, General Rezai. Then we have the President as the Chairman, President Pezeshkian. He's the Chairman of this National Supreme National Security Council, and they report to the Supreme Leader, Mujtaba Khamenei. So you see, the point is that for Iranians, it's not about money at all. It is they have their objective set, and the objective has repeatedly been spelt out by Abbas Harakchi that we will not accept a ceasefire. We do not want this war to ever happen again. And if you look at very carefully how things have unfolded in the last 5 months, much of what they had set out to achieve, the Iranians have already achieved that, but this is something we'll talk in a while. Now, let me comment on Pakistan. A simple thing that Trump should have known is their own history with Pakistan. If he had just about gone over that, or his advisors had told him that when it comes to the Pakistan army chiefs, they never compromise on their national security. It's not about Field Marshal Asim Munir. It is something that they have never done. I'll give you two examples. One is, and these both relate to America's ties with Pakistan. One is that when India did its nuclear test in May 1998, then the Americans were desperately trying that Pakistan not do its nuclear test. We'll give Pakistan money, we'll give F-16s, and Strobe Talbot. Then he was the close friend of President Clinton as well as the Deputy Secretary of State of America. He was trying to get in touch with Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. Nobody was picking up the phone from his office. Finally, he got in touch with General Jahangir Karamat, who invited him, okay, come over to the general headquarters. When he came over, point blank, General Karamat told Strobe Talbot that, look, we'll take care of our national interest and our national security. And why I'm saying all this is because Strobe Talbot has written in his book. They don't compromise, they did the test. Similarly, when 9/11 happened, please recall that President Trump declared, ultimatum was given to the world as well as General Musharraf that you either are with us or you're not with us. And Musharraf immediately said, we are with you. But Musharraf did precisely what he had to do for his country. So the point that I'm making is if they look at their own record of their dealings with Pakistan, Pakistani generals and their army chiefs never compromise. I mean, there are so many examples I can give. So to expect Asim Munir to do something like this is absolutely insane. For the simple reason he knows what his national interest is. And to spell out what his national interest is, he knows that he's in a very good position today. I'll give three things. As far as Asim Munir is concerned, he's the mediator that Trump cannot do without. See, today Trump is talking of an economic warfare with Iran. But the point is, at some stage, he'll have to come back to diplomacy. And who does he get in touch with? Field Marshal Asim Munir. There's nobody else. So, and then as far as Asim Munir is concerned, his job is cut out. He is looking at creating a regional framework that is for West Asia, which we have discussed, I think, in our last episode, our interaction. And not only that, he's looking beyond that also. He's looking at the Islamic framework. So there is a regional framework, there is an Islamic framework, and as part of that framework in Africa, now they have done the defense cooperation with Somalia. They'll do perhaps with more Muslim nations in Africa. Then in South Asia, we see the relations between Bangladesh and Pakistan, how much they have strengthened in so little time. So you see, these are those things about building a Islamic framework. Pakistan is on an exceptional geopolitical high. And Trump should be aware of all that. So to expect a Field Marshal Asim Munir to compromise on his country's national security is stupidity, nothing more than that. Or it is simply a desperation of a man who simply doesn't have any options. That is the way I would, analyze the thing.
Well, that is the way that Larry Johnson and Pepe Escobar analyzed it as well earlier today, and when I was informed about all this from people who are in decision-making circles at very high places, both in Tehran and Islamabad, they were actually laughing about it.
Yeah.
They were saying how stupid this guy can be to even think that somebody like Asim Munir, somebody like General Vahidi will act against the interest, the national interest, and betray for a few $1 billion, as if $few $1 billion is going to buy them. So, but the larger question I would like to submit to you, Pravin, is this: when you have somebody who is that devoid of the ability to think, I'm talking about Trump, who is that narcissistic, that egotistical, that completely incapable of a thought that can last more than 5 minutes. How do you see this ending? I mean, I would like to share with you that something we could briefly started to discuss. Information came to me from Larry Johnson that not happy with Hasim Munir, he now wants to slap Hasim Munir on his hands or face or whatever it is that he wants to do, impose some economic sanctions. Before I even talk to anybody in Islamabad, I can tell you they are going to say, get lost. Not going to react in any positive way, and he's only going to hurt himself. So how do we ever get out of this mess?
See, what has happened is we have to see the big picture of what's going on in West Asia first. So, when we look there, as far as Trump is concerned, what he's been trying to do is open Strait of Hormuz, which everybody knows there are simply no military options at all to open the Strait of Hormuz. Whereas on the other side, the Iranian military has a lot of military options against America. Now, so the latest what he has done is, if you see his social media, President Trump, he has declared that Hormuz is now American territory. Now, when you declare a thing like this and you put it out on social media, what you are saying is that you have to defend it. When you no, no, this is a very serious matter.
Yes,
That means
yes,
you have
yes.
to defend it. Now, how do you defend when you don't have any military options? So, a couple of days back, I spoke about this, that are they contemplating a nuclear option? I perhaps was the first one to mention this because I said that Americans have a history of this. They're the only country which has used nuclear weapons. No other country has Used it. And then after that, after 3 4 days, a Republican lawmaker, Taylor Greene, then she put out a long post on the social media saying that yes, the nuclear option is being discussed. And then I find a lot of other now American analysts are talking about this nuclear option. So, what we have to understand is that America has a first use policy. That means the tactical nuclear weapons are very much part of their conventional war fighting. And there is today a capability, the technology exists, that you can do a very low yield tactical nuclear weapon to open the Strait of Hormuz. All this exists, everything is there. You see, but of course, the implications of this, even if they do it and they open the Strait of Hormuz, will be devastating for the Americans and for the world. Because actually, today, nobody has used nuclear weapons. Uh, there are countries, there is Russia, which has a first use policy. But the point is, after the Americans used it and the people saw the devastation of that, both the bombs which were used on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they were actually tactical weapons with simply a 15 kiloton yield. And see the devastation they created. But of course, today, much smaller, such small weapons, you see, which can be fired from a cannon, nuclear, which can simply blast the whole thing with a little area of blast and radiation. So all this is possible, but then the implications are very severe, not only for America, but for nuclear proliferation in the world. So the point I'm making is that as far as Hormuz is concerned, he is absolutely desperate to own Hormuz, and this is a serious matter. And I put nothing past him because, as far as his advisors are concerned, they would be discussing this. In fact, a lot of people have said, the American analysts, that the nuclear issue has been discussed because it is part of conventional war fighting. They have a first use policy. So the point I'm making is that do not dismiss this at all, that he may use it, because for him, petrodollars ending is not acceptable. Now, here is the irony. The irony is that obviously J.D. Vance, the vice president, he belongs to the inner circle. And he, at one of the channels, I heard him say very clearly that the US dollar will no longer remain the reserve currency of the world, and America has to learn not to live cheap. So, in other words, he's against nuclear weapons, he is against America continuing with the war. So, there is a clear, in the public domain, dissonance between the president and his own vice president. That's one part. That is the military component. Now, as far as diplomacy is concerned, the diplomacy is not working at all, because now, you know very well that this MOU was signed on the 17th of June, and as far as the 60 days are concerned, they are over. And the Iranians now have come up with much harder, with much stringent conditions to open the Strait of Hormuz. And we know the conditions. They've already had a talk recently with the Omanis. which is the other coastal country, and now they seem to have come up, although they have not publicly announced yet, but surely they'll announce very soon that they are the northern route only will be used, which is the Iranian route, both for the inbound as well as the outbound. And they are talking of levying a tax on the cargo value of 7%. So we are talking about minimum $100 billion every month, every year, the Iranians can get. And it is very much in Iran's control. Now, the point here is that as far as President Trump is concerned, because he has now imposed the economic warfare, I'll just come to that. So the Iranians will be asking this money in yuan. So that is, yeah. So, and they also want that all these sanctions on them, they should immediately be lifted so that they can sell their oil, they can sell their gas, they can sell the petrochemicals, and they want all the frozen assets to be released. Now, when you look at the frozen asset, it is amount to something like $120 billion. So this is something that has to be worked out through negotiations. And who will negotiate? Who's the mediator? Pakistan. So all these, and then of course they have said that there should be peace on all the fronts. They have to get the Israelis to do that, and then they have also said that the Americans remove their forces from basically West Asia. As far as Americans are concerned, today they have removed their forces from the Persian Gulf. The retrenchment has started of the US troops from there. So the point that I'm making is that as far as diplomacy is concerned, the conditions of the Iranians is very harsh, extremely harsh. Now it is up to President Trump whether he wants to come back and talk or he doesn't want to talk. Because as far as Iran is concerned, everybody is talking about it that they are certainly looking at the 3rd November deadline of the midterm elections in America and what will come out of it. And obviously, yeah, my last point I want to make is on the economic warfare, but yeah, I'll make that later. You want to say something?
No, I just wanted to say to you, Praveen, that our own reporting confirmed that Trump actually asked General Kane, uh, "Can I use nuclear weapons?" As if a kid asking, "Can I use that toy?" And Kane, from our reporting, and was later confirmed by Axios and later confirmed by Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has good connections also, that Kane said, you're again, you're out of your mind to even discuss it. No, 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 you cannot use those nuclear weapons. And now let me give you another perspective. This is from Tehran, and that perspective is that they know that this discussion is taking place in Washington. They don't care about it. I mean, obviously they care about it. They don't want to be a receiving end of a nuclear bomb, but they are prepared to absorb that punishment and strike back. I've said this on this channel a bunch of times. Iran is days away from mounting a nuclear device contingent upon the okay from the Supreme Leader on a long range, very sophisticated missile that can strike Israel for sure and devastate Israel. I mean, maybe wipe it off from the face of the earth. And I mean, what comes next? Who knows? But also sink of one or two of these massive tankers. So Iran is not backing away, not backing down. And now, as we discussed earlier, Trump is so mad against Pakistan, against Asim Munir, that he's going to slap sanctions. What is that going to accomplish? I mean, what is the difference between Trump and a child who has lost his mind?
Let me make two comments on what you have said till now, one on Pakistan and the other on Iran. Let me start with Iran. I don't see the possibility at all if you are hinting that the Iranians would use a nuclear weapon. Surely they have the technology, they can produce one, they can do it very well. They could have done if they wanted, but I don't think they'll do it. And the reason for that is very simple that they know it is their geography where they are, they have to live there. And what they are trying to do is build a regional security architecture, a regional framework. And if they use a nuclear weapon, then all that does not happen at all. So that is one part. So they may be thinking about it, but I don't think. And then certainly they have not notified. I mean, they are member of the NPT and as a non-nuclear weapon state. So, and they have not notified the NPT. So the Iranians are unlikely. In fact, I'm convinced that they will not declare that we have nuclear weapons at all. Whatever they have or they don't have, they won't do that. Now, coming to Pakistan, you see, there's something very interesting. If you what you have said that they have slapped sanctions on Pakistan, I haven't seen the details yet. But what I have seen is the social post by President Trump, where he has declared an economic warfare on Iran. And to bypass this economic warfare, Pakistan has a big role to play, very big role. You see, now, so if you see his social post, he has written very clearly what all cannot be done. He has not mentioned ports. He has mentioned airports. He has not mentioned ports, very important, and he has not mentioned the land routes at all in that. Now, if I put that alongside what is going on the ground, we know that there are six land routes through which the Pakistanis are helping the Iranians. And we also know that there are these three ports of Pakistan: Karachi, Port Qasim, and Gwadar. Once again, they are being used to help Iran. You see? So the point I'm making is that whatever he may say, perhaps there's a disconnect between Besant and Trump. Or I'm not privy to exactly if Trump has spoken with Asim Munir on this issue. I don't know. But Trump understands that Pakistan is important for me because he also knows that he can keep doing this posturing. But at the end of the day, he'll have to come down and accept what J.D. Vance has publicly said, that America has to start living within its means. So this is the way I would see the sanction part on Pakistan. I don't think they are pretty serious about it, or it will be something very light. And they are aware of how much Pakistan is helping because, see, for Pakistan, it is very important to take care of their national interest. And Pakistan's national interest is exactly with the two other great powers, with the new world order, with China as well as Russia, and of course with Iran. So Pakistan knows where it wants to go, and we see it heading that side. So as far as Trump is concerned, Pakistan understands Trump is that America is important, very important, but it also understands that America today is a sharply declining power, and the vice president accepts that. So that is where things stand. This is my assessment of the situation.
Well, your assessment and that of serious analysts all over the world, they have expressed very similar sentiments that Trump is simply crying. I mean, literally crying in the wilderness, and nothing is going to come out of this. And I can assure you that Pakistan is not going to do anything other than simply laugh at it. And another point that I would like to make, with knowledge of what happening in Islamabad, is that China it will never allow Pakistan to be blackmailed by Trump. I know this for a fact. I directly firsthand knowledge that China, whatever is going on, I'm sure you will agree with that, is not happening in isolation. It's happening because this is Wang Yi's policy that is being executed by Pakistan, that is being executed by all elements of Pakistani society, all elements of Pakistani leadership, and the calendar is date is still being confirmed of a very significant visit by Speaker Galibaf, Arakchi, leading a 21% delegation to Islamabad. The date could be announced as early as within the next couple of days, and they're going to have serious talks all over the civilian leadership, the military leadership, and the relationship is just going to get more and more strengthened. So I see this as nothing more than the end game, Parveen. But do you see this in any other way?
Oh, absolutely. See, after J.D. Vance's statement acknowledging that the reality is now coming that the American empire will have to do without dollar being the reserve currency, which means that retrenchment of their capabilities, their soldiers, will start happening from their bases across the globe, and that is precisely what started already. For example, if you look at South Korea, where President Trump publicly said that, look, those guys did not come, the South Koreans did not help me in the Strait of Hormuz. Why have I put 39,000 soldiers there? So, and there are already talks that Trump wants to meet up with the North Korean president, whom he met in 2019. But see, that has been preempted by Wang He. Wang He has already reached South. He was there yesterday and met the president of South Korea. And this surely is one of the things that he would be discussing, that this is about time that there be peace. There should be a resolution of the DMZ also between the two Koreas. See, so that is already happening. And if you look at Europe, Europe again is having a big problem. They have a problem of their own because it's not that the Americans have totally washed their hands of the Ukraine war, but certainly they want the Europeans to do the heavy lifting, and they are doing it. See, ideally, what the Americans are looking for is that, or that is what he had thought of, and which was sensible when he started his second term. It was that your pivot, which is your military capabilities, which starting from Clinton till Biden, they were all brought to the Indo-Pacific. Now he wanted to pivot that to the Arctic Ocean, and he wanted to pivot from Europe also to the Western Hemisphere. Because the problem today for America is that it finds it very difficult to save its own backyard. That is where the problem is. If you look today at Western Hemisphere, the military capabilities there of the Chinese and the Russians, they have increased manifold. New technologies have come in. Hypersonic cruise missiles have come in. China's FOB has come in. Fractional orbital bombardment system. Then of the 32 countries which are there in Latin America, 22 countries they are on board the Belt and Road Initiative. And the countries that are not on Belt and Road, like Mexico, like Brazil, they have very strong economic ties with China. And Trump is very upset with Brazil for this matter. So the point I'm making is that the American empire basically is in an extremely big trouble because of this wrong war they have got into. And Trump, by being here, in my assessment, and this seems to be the assessment of many American analysts as well, he is simply posturing until he wants this midterm elections to first get over. Because if you see the problems, even when we talk of the blockade that he has put on Iran, the Americans are suffering more at home because of the blockade. The gas prices have gone up, inflation will go up, and all these things are impacting America, and his rating itself has gone down substantially. So there is trouble for America every day, both at home as well as in Western Hemisphere, and that is where they need to focus now. Instead of being all around the world, that party is over, that world is over. That is where we are, Zulfikar, in my assessment.
Absolutely. Not only your assessment, but the assessment of all learned scholars who observe this, who study it deeply, like you do, who are highly respected, and the assessment from my perspective, which comes from people that I speak with, who are who have honored me with the information that is not available elsewhere. I would like to propose one other, you know, glaring fact, looking us in the eyes. The strategic petroleum reserve is dwindling, literally dwindling down to the floor, and all of this nonsense, this posturing. regardless of how much he postures, regardless of how much he jumps up and down, Trump is not going to put a drop of oil in that strategic petroleum reserve because that drop of oil is not coming from the Strait of Hormuz. So he's basically blockaded himself. How long do you think this will last? I mean, it has to be. It has to come to an end in days.
No, no, I agree with you. In fact, that is what the American analysts are talking about. That they are the reserves, the petroleum reserves of America, they are down to some 1982 or 83, and they have
Yes,
reserves only for about 42, 43 days left. So you see the economic warfare that he is trying to impose on Iran, he is suffering more than Iran is suffering. Now, I'll give you another example the stupidity of what they are trying to do. When I say they, I'm talking of both Iran as well as Israel. You see, recently, this is a very big news. There's no doubt about it that the UAE they have announced that there will be no trade transactions, no financial transactions with Iran. If you see that trade for 2024, that was $21 billion between the two countries. And the way it was working was absolutely fantastic because the stuff was coming to this port of UAE, this Jabal Ali, and from this port, in small boats, you see, it used to go to Iran. Then the foreign exchange that Iran needed was being supplied by here. So all this thing was going beautifully. Now suddenly, uh, UAE says that two missiles have been fired by the Iranians. Now Iranians are saying this is a false flag operation. We haven't done it. So the point is, who's done that? And then for that, you are taking such stringent measures. What the UAE has taken, which obviously shows there is a hand of Trump and Netanyahu in it, who want to break the GCC. And
yes.
one country which can be easily broken is UAE. You see, so they are trying all these things, but it will not sort of get the Iranians in any way to deflect from their key objective. And the key objective is very clear that the American forces have to leave West Asia. And there is no way that Strait of Hormuz can ever be now under the control of the Americans or it can be free. It cannot be the way it was before February 28th. So that is where we stand.
Well, additionally, Praveen, you know this very well. All the bases that have been destroyed, who's going to rebuild them? And how
No,
quickly can that happen? Let
no,
us
no, they
assume for a second that
yeah.
a decision is made tomorrow to rebuild them. And who's going to pay for it?
No, no, I agree entirely with you. In fact, the basic question is this that will these countries allow the Americans to rebuild the bases? You
Answer
see
is
what
no.
has happened? No, that is the problem. So, Bahrain, a country, Bahrain, where this was the headquarters of Fifth Fleet, what happened early in the war? Their logistic base here, naval logistic base, got totally bombed, and now they are dependent on Diego Garcia. Now, you see,
Yes, yes.
this brings me to another interesting point. For all the talk about American great military power, the reality is that in this war that they are fighting, and this war, let's be honest, really lasted from February 28th to April 8th. That's it. That was the air campaign. After that is all posturing that is going on. So in this war, the two theaters have been joined. Their one theater's central command was unable to take care of the Iranian military capability. Both the theaters have been joined, which is the US Pacific Command and the CENTCOM. Because if you recall, their amphibious ship came from there. Then the third missiles they came from the Pacific Command. Munitions have come from Pacific Command, and now the Diego Garcia base, which has become the logistic base. You see, for the American, for their navy, that is their Bahrain is no longer available to them. That is completely destroyed. And this is precisely why there's been trouble on this Abraham Lincoln, USS Abraham Lincoln, the aircraft carrier. Now, when you look at this whole picture, it becomes very clear that all this US naval blockade is actually a big vulnerability,
Absolutely.
because as far as blockade is concerned, it's an act of war. So when the Iranians say that we will get aggressive now, from a defensive strategy, we are now shifting to an offensive strategy after the military restructuring that we have done. What are they talking about? They are talking about all these capabilities of the Americans which are floating all around Mediterranean, and which have put the naval blockade around the Strait of Hormuz. They are talking about that. And then openly they are talking about the subsea cables, that we can take
Yes.
them out. We'll cut the subsea cables to go through the Strait of Hormuz. So, Zulfikar, the point is very simple. Anybody who connects the dots gets the very clear picture that America has put itself in a very difficult situation. And why it has put itself? For the simple reason no war appreciation was done. And because no war appreciation was done, the war inventories were not checked. Then Americans, for all the talks that they do in their think tanks about preparing for a 21st century war with the Chinese, the fact of the matter is they are just about able to do their 20th century warfare. They are way behind China. So that is where we are.
Well, Praveen, I could talk to you for another hour, maybe 2 hours, and you make things so easily understood, so completely transparent for anybody to understand the reality of the utter hopelessness of Mr. Trump, the utter lack of any planning that went in. No plan A, forget about plan B. Uh, but we'll have to defer that to the next time. Hopefully, nothing catastrophic happens between now and then. But I deeply appreciate your taking your time to come back again, even though you had come here earlier to talk about something of great significance that was going on. So thank you very very much. We are deeply honored to have you here. It's a very privileged voice. I can assure you, people in decision making circles where I get a lot of my information listen to our podcast, listen to your voice, and they always want me to thank you for that.
Thank
So I
you.
thank them. Thank you on their behalf.
Thank
Deeply
you.
appreciated. People who are listening to us, thank you very much for your support. If you like what we are saying, kindly hit the like and subscribe button. Please go to Substack, become a paid member. We'll deliver this inside your mailbox, and that will provide us with a little bit of support. So thank you very much. Final word to you, Praveen.
No, precisely. I mean, I what you have said, and you rounded it up very well, and that is where we are. He actually has no options at all, and he'll have to come back.
Zero.
He'll have to come back, and the only people who can help him in that is Pakistan and the Pakistan Army Chief. That is the only option he has now. Once he comes back now, he comes back after the midterm. That he has to decide, because Iran is facing a lot of problems. But also remember that Iran is doing away with its existential threat, and Iran has gained a lot in this war. So big gains, and the Iranians are aware of that, what they have gained.
And they're willing to pay the price.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they in any case have been paying the price then since the sanctions started in 1979.
Yes.
They've been paying a very heavy price. There's no doubt about it. So they are taking a lot of pain, but they are fighting back, because that is what Iran is.
Yes.
You know.
Thank you
So
very
thank you
much,
very
Praveen.
much, Zulfikar, for having me. Thank
You're,
you.
you're, I mean, it's such a delight to speak to you, Praveen. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपका